was asked earlier that I think we've now evolved to, which is what ideas do you have for this if you already understand structural diversification and don't really care about tracking error? So
yeah,
because we just started this risk parity conversation. So how would you guys think about that if tracking error is a much smaller behavioral bias?
Well, hold on. We haven't even talked about tracking error really, actually. So,
sure.
like,
So, you can
so let's talk about tracking error, like the importance of tracking error, why you decided to structure the paper this way rather than going in sort of a risk parity core direction. And then talk about, for those who are less, who claim to be less tracking error sensitive, you know, what are some alternatives?
I think that's Ray Dalio's pseudonym, by the way. So I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, when we first started talking about this, certainly my gut instinct was to stack returns by first creating the max Sharpe portfolio. So for every unit of risk that you can, every unit of risk you take, you maximize the unit of return, and then lever that up, right? But this has been our journey. Nobody likes, few people like to listen to that, right? This whole thing started because an advisor asked me, I'm trying to create a retail version of like the all-weather, the cockroach portfolio, the dragon portfolio. Can you help me? And I said, no, look what happens when I grab your equities, your bonds, your gold, your tail. You get
hold on. The answer is yes. I can help you with that.
Yeah.
But no, you don't actually want it. You think you do, but actually you don't.
And I showed him, I said, look, let me do it. I did it on the screen for him, and I did the back test for him. And what he saw was a high Sharpe, pretty steady equity line at a volatility of 4 with a return of 4. That's like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. It's just never going to happen. So I went to bed, and he kind of just gave up. And I woke up the next day, and I'm like, hold on a second. With Corey's fund, with our fund, with Wisdom Tree, maybe we can create a levered version that hits, because the paper, like the Dragon portfolio, has a volatility of 15% in the back test, right? You need to lever that up pretty nicely. Why 15%? Well, because that's what equities run at, right? So by being able to use leverage with these products, I was able to go back to him and say, look, here's your Dragon portfolio. Using leverage, it hits like 8-9% volatility, which is probably okay. You're still going to struggle with a lot of tracking, everybody, okay. And we started thinking about publishing this paper, and I realized this individual, this advisor, is unique. Very, very few conversations happen when somebody's seen the light. Almost every conversation is about how do I minimize my tracking error while also recognizing I need diversification. I want something that goes up 1-to-1 with S&P, but doesn't have any drawdowns. Can you help me, right? And so the stack and returns paper, we could have gone both ways, but it made sense to us to address the biggest market, to try to help the people that are most susceptible to this future possible negative path for equities and bonds. And it made sense to do this, to create something that minimized the tracking error. People ask us if that's what we do with our money. No, we're converts, right?
Mike, how does this levered 60-40 allocation make you feel?
Oh God. Oh God. Well, yeah, it makes my skin crawl a little bit, much like Corey's destroying risk. And I don't mean that I mean that for me personally. I just think that we are reaching a point of peak 60-40, especially when it comes to North American markets. And I've just been around for a few decades doing this. And I've just seen the markets, how they sort of lull everybody into a concept until, the last dollar of that concept goes in. And, there's a decade-long period where things don't work like was expected. So if we think about the 2000 peak that started with the 1982 bull market, which started with interest rates at 18%, brought that down to 6%, and how the conversion happened for people owning bonds and then getting convinced on stocks, the Japanese experience into 89. Like, I've just seen it so many times. And when you get such broad, vehement adoption, that equity risk premia, especially that of North America and the US, is clockwork. It works like a bond. It works like a CD or a GIC. When you get that kind of confidence, that's where, I get really uncomfortable. At the same time, I totally understand how advisors, allocators, board members are, compelled to dance whilst the music plays. Very few can stand against the zeitgeist. And so I think that was the birth of this, the
Absolutely.
light bulb that went over, Rod and Corey's head.